Dear guests, dear colleagues, welcome to the Forum of the Strategic Initiatives. With that, on today's event, we are discussing very important topics, ideas. Our speakers are ready, I believe, and without further ado, let me start. As the forum is announced open, I would like to invite our speakers to the stage. Mr. Timur Turlov, please take your seat. Mr. Bagdat Musin.
Timur Suleimenov.
Mr. Timur Suleimenov.
James Robinson.
Mr. James Robinson, please.
Olzhas Khudaibergenov.
Mr. Olzhas Khudaibergenov.
И Almas Zhali.
And Almas Zhali. We have been thinking over the right way to start this panel session, because, you know, in the tradition of the Kazakh nation, people who are from far, they are given the first floor, and we will show the respect. But after discussion, we have come to the joint conclusion that the first floor should be given to our young people, our youth, because we are talking about the future today. The future is in the hands of our young people. I would like to announce that Mr. Imanbek couldn't join us online, but yesterday we connected and we could take his answers to our questions. So he still will be virtually with us through responding to the questions. And we say the smartness is from the young age. I would like to give or ask my first question to Almas Zhali. Almas, you are 28 years old. And you are quite successful. You are on our market thanks to your project called Brave Talents. You managed to concentrate around yourself a lot of interesting people. And communicating in this circle of talented people, what image of the future Kazakhstan do you see? How do you see it for yourself in the prospect of 7 years? Hello, dear community. Thank you for invitation. It was unexpected to be the first one to speak. My name is Almas Zhali. I represent the company Brave Talents. We are doing directing Irina Kairatovna, 91, 200 bloggers for over 3 countries. We have branch in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. Media and creative culture is being developed by us. As for the image and how we see the country, I cannot say for all. We have some notion. 3 years ago, when they were elections, and we always got contacted by the managers of the country, and the bloggers, they were not very much willing to take part in the political life of the life. Now we observe different, maybe they've grown and matured, but they got interested in being part of the politics. In Seoul, we talked with the manager of Billie Eilish, and she said that Billie is openly supporting or not supporting certain initiatives, such as going to elections and so on. The same we observe now the residents of the creative industry, they got more interested in politics and the image, the way I see it, I would like the country to have certain strategy that is not changing every 2-3 years, and we are not hiring McKinsey every 2 years to spend $100 million to have new drawing by them. And this strategy should have its goals and the key factors of success and the ways of achievement. Of course, from our field, we believe in creative economy, creative industry, why it needs to be developed, what is happening in creative industry. The field is very mismatched, disrupted. You don't see it, but if you see export of the products and outputs of creative industry, Imanbek, script and Khalid, whom we are directors, and gross net is about over $100 million, but there is no structure yet. What we are trying to do in the image of the future, we would like to contribute ourselves and shape Bagdat Musin. We've been discussing for long with him. There is Astana Hub and there is investment, and the future of the investment is a key factor is IT. IT receives a lot of investment, preference of subsidies. We want to do the same with the creative industry. We don't need new tools. There is Astana Hub. We want to be in Astana Hub. We want taxes be lifted. We don't want any subsidies. Now 98% of residents of creative industry don't pay any taxes, but over 500 million USD is only 6 labels in the last 3 years. Imagine if we digitalize and connect it to Astana Hub permanently or non-permanently, and we understand how many movies we are shooting, why it is increasing, and taking your question, what is the future? What is the future image? One of the tools is creativity, because if we digitalize, we will become South Korea, who earned 10.3 billion USD only thanks to 4 K-pop groups. I'm not talking about Netflix here. You know how everything is developing. The movie I'm getting over 30 years. We had a record in 10 days. It was the fastest shot movie last December. It was issued, and the budget was 72 million tenge. We don't spend billions for certain products. However, output and outcome is over 10 million. The video Blue Flag, which was shot after the January events, we were criticized for it, being told that we are invested by the government, but we did it for our own money, and the video had over 20 million views. Creativity is being revived, and it is already exported. And imagine if we support it, development of the creative industry in Kazakhstan will be boosting. Yes, you managed your cooperation with the Ministry of Digital Development. Bagdat Musin is known as an innovator, as a very progressive minister, which overjoys us. Among your guys, probably you discuss political figures and activists. Let's imagine if one of them becomes decision maker in Kazakhstan. Do you have some examples of people in Kazakhstan saying that if we appoint them to the government, to the central office, that they will change things for the better? Specific personalities, can you name them? Well, personalities, my relatives probably. My mother says always that I am the best. My mother's version of me is something very different. Well, actually, if to be serious, I'm not so absorbed. I cannot name the personalities. Timur Muratovich Bagdat, it's graduates of the Kazakh-Turkish Lyceums or Bolashak or Pavlodar. People, I think, they are those whose need is not to be memorized. Such person who doesn't have the need to popularize, to be populist, they will do something more. They will not be afraid. We know political tools very well. When certain decisions are made to be praised, to be encouraged, to be popular, to get the support, but at some stage they need to do something that will not be understood. It's like when you give a child injection or bitter pill, child will be running away and crying, but it is necessary to recover. That's why I think people who should be nominated, they need to be those who are over their personal reputation. And I think the graduates of Kazakh-Turkish Lyceums who are really thinking about the country, who are not trying to benefit, who do not play political games. Being in media and PR, we often receive requests to work with civil servants to improve their image, and we see that how very much short we are, that there is a really shortage of people who are not after praise, who are not after some populist reputation, who are for the country. You cannot create it with the media tools. You are either such person or you are not. And we see, and we have the audience for CIS, 200 million views. We are ready to support those people. And there are already, I will not name them, not to promote. However, we believe there are groups of people who... Thank you. I'm very happy that I gave floor to you first, and it breaks the templates, the two concepts that I've heard from you. First of all, our young generation is not having idols. It is very important, and I'm sure we will not have the cult of the personality or worshipping one person. Secondly, there is a common interest. You mentioned Kazakh-Turkish Lyceums. My son graduated Kazakh-Turkish Lyceums, and we see how they interact, that one is in need, everyone is helping him. Now, colleagues, I would like to look at the answers of Imanbek, DJ Imanbek. We'll see his video responses and listen to the questions that I was asking him yesterday. By the way, with James Robinson yesterday when we were talking, he told us that he is mad about Imanbek and that his children also listen to Imanbek, that he is very popular in US and so on. And I think it's a very nice thing to hear for us as for Kazakhstan. My question to Imanbek was, Imanbek, you are 22 years old, you just started adult life, but already achieved world recognition of your talent. You are working in 2-3 countries now, you and your generation looking into the future with optimism and hope. How do you see the image of future Kazakhstan and how country shall change in the next 7 years? Hello, it's Imanbek. Thank you for your question. I work and live in different countries of the world, and home is sweet home. When I come to Kazakhstan, I always observe certain changes. I notice them, and it makes me very happy. I think Kazakhstan shall be loud in the good meaning of this word, so that our country is known and respected in the world, so that Kazakhstan is a peacemaker. How country should change in 7 years? Country should give opportunities, because according to my observations in the regions, there are a lot of talented people, and it's true. I think our government shall come up with some solution so that these talents can be developed. We have a lot of smart guys who work in Facebook and Google, in many other places, and I was told, I also read myself, I have friends who we studied together with, and they found themselves, they learned IT, and they are earning a lot of money now. Our Kazakhstan citizens, our Kazakhstan people, they are very good at they are very good at thinking in IT language. I hope our IT companies can create unicorns. I want Kazakhstan to change in the 7 years in the way, so not only we want to return to our country, but foreigners who know about Kazakhstan also want to visit and see it and live in it. Well, the first response, the very first response was that dear elder generation and those who are in power, please don't deter us, don't hinder us. And my question was, my second question was, what should elder generation do to boost the enthusiasm of young people, so young people believe in the future and contribute 100% and don't spare themselves so that we have a good future. Don't pressure us, don't force young people do what they don't want to. If you want our young people achieve certain pieces of success in the culture and in the science, untie their hands, just don't create the impediments. You only irritate by the lectures, and if they want advice, they will come up to you and ask for this advice.
Perfect. Excellent. And actually, I recall happy stories that Imanbek was lucky. And I always ask myself the question whether he was lucky. But the luck always could be with us, and the guy was not lost. And now he is located in the US, and that means that he is a hard worker and a talented one. And you heard about our young guys, and Imanbek and the first speaker was always talking about IT, the advanced technologies, and that's why the next question I'd like to ask Bagdat Musin, the Minister of Technologies, and you are in the front of our digitalization program, and I think that the digital development sector always looks ahead, and moreover here it's important that the consciousness defines the future technologies, or future technologies define our consciousness, and that's why we'd like to listen to your points of view. Tell us, please, in your area of responsibilities, all these digital technologies, development in IT, how it will impact on the future of Kazakhstan. We are now talking about the prospect of 7 years. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kanat. Thanks a lot for organizing such an event. Wonderful that we have such kind of platform where we can talk and discuss and invite very famous speakers. And answering your question, probably, I may say that certainly it's important to have a picture of future. And if we use images, then such a picture always is in place. But I'd like to describe our presence, where we are now. Without understanding where we are now, would be difficult to dream about the future. And Kazakhstan in digitalization actually is in the position where we look very nice in methodology, in all indices. We look as if we are developed in a wonderful way. And if we look at our current position, the rating of electronic government, we were valued in online services as in the 8th position in the world, which makes us happy. Certainly, there is still a lot of room to work at, and there are bottlenecks, but still the rating is done not by Kazakhstan, but by UN experts. And annually, we need to see dynamics, not just the position. Any rating shows the position at one point of time. And if you understand and look behind, we saw the paper documents, the offices, the bureaucracy, which then stepped into the electronic government. There is integrational approach when we, e-government, provide different state services via electronic platforms. And like in many countries, in most countries, I would say, e-gov is so-called attractor and portal of e-government would be a tool via which the state services are provided and influence on e-field is done. But we decided to demonopolize the portals and brought the e-services via different electronic platforms like Kaspi and Halik and etc. And we created so-called points of access to the government databases via which any entrepreneur having electronic platform can get connected and provide their services. And this is approach that digital platforms, a lot of digital platforms become much more effective finding the ways to provide services at a needed point of time. When, for example, there should be registration or re-registration of the vehicles and properties, you can do it via Kaspi platform in 5-10 minutes without going or visiting any special single or window opportunities. And the approach for going into open ABI, you may be connected to the government and get the services. And now banks, before providing mortgage loans, you earlier spent 28 days visiting the bank in order to get such a loan. Now you can do it sitting at home. Certainly, we are proud of all these achievements, but there are still bottlenecks, like medical industry that needs the digital transformation. And during 7 years, we will be able to make medicine or medical industry more affordable. And such kind of portals may also be available in medical industry. And any person could be under observation of the state, and the state can show its care, analyzing all the data of the families and of our residents. We will be able to provide proactive services, which means that we know pains of each family, of each person, and know what kind of service be provided to this person or family. And proactive service is a switch to the invisible government, when we do not make people to fill different applications, forms, and etc. And we offer the services proactively. When a child is being born, we send a text with congratulations from the government with one question: what name did you choose for your child? And if you answer that text, then certificate of birth would be automatically issued by the government. And this is a digital document since this year. You should not have this in the hard copy. And where we are now, and I described our position now, there is another side of the coin. In order digitalization going ahead, we need to solve the issue of accessing internet, and in index of internet infrastructure have still a lot of work to be done to do. We are in the 65th position in accessing internet. Then my wish is to make enabling the digital infrastructure, to make it a foundation, to make it infrastructural component via which any resident may get an access to the benefits of the digital world. And if to switch to the question of digital Kazakhstan image in future, and actually I would say the most important thing will be to make a resident, a person in the center, to make Kazakhstan resident-centric. When the government and migration police, as well as another government authority, provides their 4/7 documents, they are needed in digital or paper form, and our task of digital government turn to the people and become proactive. When a person answering via his smartphone yes, no, don't know, answering key questions, after which he is provided with all state services. And I would add one more. In registration of the real estate, there are no problems. You before went to the notary offices and redo your deal and don't go anywhere else. I thought that that's it. But when you registered your real estate, you need also to register in the utilities. And this change of your apartments, when you move into a new space, a new place, you should get registration of your apartment, registration of different receipts you get from the utilities. This approach for the living situations of any residents should become the main port for the digital government. In 7 years, I think 95% will not only be automated, these 95% of services would be proactive, and internet would be accessible everywhere. For any person, any enterprise could get connected via its devices to make the economics digital, that we could be able to read this information from all the sensors and provide conclusions, provide receipts, provide documents, and the government takes decisions not based on different hypotheses or judgment, but when it is based on the data that was accumulated by the state. And this data is accumulated both by the government databases and non-governmental databases. And we may do this tracking from the birth of the resident to marriage of him and to other status of them. And in the digital platforms, non-governmental, this data would be accumulated. That's why we need to interrelate with non-governmental databases. Now we provide them the data, and in the future there will be access to different databases in order to take decisions in a right way based on the preventive analytics. Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, we all are witnesses of such serious digital platforms that are now in place in Kazakhstan. They are respected, we are proud of them, and I saw not long ago a video in Instagram, in YouTube, when you criticized the operators of the cellular communications. I don't want to be a troll, but still, you download different data and see that the mobile operators are very slow for such kind of activities. I'd like to address Timur Turlov. For Kazakhstan, you are quite a unique person and you are a billionaire and your family now resides in Kazakhstan. And Mr. Musin was talking about the government creating all the necessary conditions for the business development. And you do businesses in different countries, including Kazakhstan. Now, comparing Kazakhstan with other countries, what are the business doing conditions in Kazakhstan? Are you satisfied with them? Or what image of Kazakhstan you see for yourself in the nearest future? Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Probably the image of future Kazakhstan in my head looks like digital Kazakhstan. And we see how digitalization helps to solve a lot of different system issues that cannot be solved in a short period of time. And the surveillance system Sergak made an order in the traffic, and the traffic police became much more effective without any changes in the global culture of the communities. When we see the iPads in the hands of the traffic police, and when the automatic surveillance was installed in different roads, such kind of digitalization and in other examples help us to work at different imperfections. And if we were not even a leader in the previous stage, like Industrial Revolution and its transitions, now we got a real chance to become a leader in the economy of talents, in the economy of the human capital, which will help us to implement that rich human capital we have in the country, and being based on our digital platforms. As far as we are a young, talented nation of optimists, and this is cool. This is what gives us huge advantage versus other countries where the middle age is quite higher, and it's difficult to name them technical optimists, and people are afraid of technologies and changes that happen, and they are very slowly respond to the challenges, and the product appears that unprecedented in its way. But if we presume that in the US mortgage market was formed maybe 100 years ago, and now it is the largest in the world and was considered as the benchmark and very well developed, now we see that the technologies that we were able to develop here and integration that was achieved here, and our Kazakhstani IT guys were able to cooperate with our e-government, they help us to make processes that are amazing the US residents, which inspires me so much. And it seems that for digital creativity now in Kazakhstan, we have the best conditions, and and we have the largest number of clients in the freedom holding, and we serve the clients from Poland, Greece, Spain, US, and when we communicate with the mass media, we may see how slowly the transformation happens in their countries, and our products are very competitive in these countries, or even those products that we were able to offer them. And Kazakhstan is perceived now not like an oil country rich of minerals, but most of entrepreneurship communities and countries are judged by the public countries, by public companies that are listed in New York, in London, and it's hard to see Kazakhstani companies from London and easier to see the companies that come for listing. And certainly investors in the world were not able to enjoy their investments, like investments in the oil companies, and financial stories, in my view, look more interesting, and fintech banks that raised capital in London, in New York, are stories of success, success of Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan is perceived now not only like a country with copper deposits, with oil and gas and other minerals, but the country of talented IT experts that produce products that are worthy of admiration, and that what we do experiments and create things may admire people with their conceptual advantages. And from the first days of my residence in Kazakhstan, I felt this readiness to test something easier and faster and experiment different novelties, and it stays in Kazakhstan and makes it admiring, like our insurance industry is growing, and some products become the standards, and different political changes and unique diplomacy landscape and such kind of policies that are in place in Kazakhstan admires me as an entrepreneur and makes me feel optimism and makes me invest in Kazakhstan. So it means that the government does not make impediments, but helps to develop. Yes, the government creates these conditions for the development, and any state probably should have some guidelines to use, and we always should find the right approach. And we do businesses in Europe, in the US, and these interrelations with the profile regulators are always different.
You mean that they need to be the clear rules of the game so that business can invest into the future? About the future, we are talking about the future. Not about what you had, but in the future. You have come to Kazakhstan, you changed your citizenship. Have you brought your family? Because for us, family is the biggest value. Why? What do you see in Kazakhstan? What rosy future, bright future you see? Yes, it happened in 2011. I came with my family. I live here since 2011, and I'm resident, tax resident. I could see the prospect here, promising areas, and most importantly, for the development of any country, people should see some prospects and promising areas. They need to see that their efforts here will give them more impact, more impactful, that you can achieve something, that you can use your knowledge that your commodity will be necessary, that it will be in demand. This inspired me on the market 11 years ago, and I still see it. What I would like to wish to myself and to ourselves, and the main trend for the future is the growth of the trust. I think fundamental restrictions are due to we sometimes fluctuate from situation when you can do everything to you can do nothing. Sometimes we run to the meeting, sometimes we shut down completely, and the ability to preserve this trust, ability to believe in yourself, this is something I would like to wish to ourselves and to our monetary regulators, because Kazakhstan has unique opportunity to implement unique chances, to try to take a chance that we can gather talents now. We can get certain niches to implement all our opportunities in the conditions of the social optimism that we have, and we need to believe that we will all use the responsibility and opportunities and will get the support from the state as well. Thank you very much. These were very interesting theses. Contemplating about future, for me, it was also critically important to answer to simple things on trust and belief. Now I would like to ask Mr. Olzhas Khudaibergen. You have heard a few speakers that we invited to this forum. Preparing for this forum, Kazakhstan 2029, the image of the future, most likely you had your own image in your head, and given the fact what you've heard, that young people will not tolerate the cult of the personality, that Kazakhstan in its digital development will navigate on people, will focus on families, on people. Business doesn't experience administrative impediments, and they need also to be high level of trust in the community. What is your answer about the future image of Kazakhstan? Has it changed? Fortunately, no. On the contrary, and what makes me happy is my vision of the future is supported and reinforced by the same expectations from young people or those who are successful in business. I have three parameters to define the future of the country. First, we compare our country with other country. The similar country, Canada, or it's a big country with the same density of population like Kazakhstan or Australia. They have reached a big success in development of their country. And sometimes there are other criteria. Switzerland in Europe, in old Europe, which always was neutral to all unions and allies. However, Switzerland also achieved much success, and Kazakhstan geographically is in the middle of the continent and tried to have a multi-vectoral policy. But it's a neutrality, I would say. Yes, it's being neutral to everyone. And this is a geographical navigation. As for the second parameter, what values countries shall have in those 7 years, I define three values. First is, of course, trust. Trust is a key thing. The state shall trust its political civil servants that it nominates, and from the first day they shouldn't be in some doubtful circumstances that they are suspects, political civil servants shall feel trust through real empowerments that they have in their positions. Of course, political civil servant with this trust will translate to the people and to citizens. When business receives certain rules of game, when they feel that in the future, tomorrow, they will be suspects and they try to act in the way so that they are out and avoid such situations. And as a result, the state doesn't trust. It shall trust business, business shall trust community, and community will trust to government. And if you don't trust, there is a vicious circle. In order to stop this vicious circle, the state needs to act. And there is a second value. It's professionalism. I hope that we actually had examples, good examples, when I was myself positive about Sanjar Jarkeshev from Kazakh Gas. He absolutely deserves this position. People say about he's young and so on, but this is a case when meritocracy worked well with him. And I think there will be more examples in the nearest years. There is a third parameter. I called passionarity. Passionarity is at any area. For example, we take the utility company. Yes, utility company, the house condominium. To make a house decision, everyone is very passive. They like to conflict. They don't like to do something constructive. I hope this culture will change and will become more constructive and more creative, and our energy will be diverted not to something negative, but to something positive and achieving results. Next, I talked about the values. The next image of the future, parameters of the state itself. Kazakhstan, let's say 200 billion. Our labor productivity is 5-6 times lower. It can be over 1 trillion easily with the same population. And I would like not only to show the GDP growth, but with population, we should be not 20 million, but much more. It will create not only stability and revenue for business and for marketing, it's a long-term stability of the state. The more people, the more country can become not an object, but subject of the global policy, global politics. Therefore, there should be more of us as citizens, as people. When we talk about state parameters, all population, at least the part of population which is close to the decision making, shall understand when there are global discussions, global issues are discussed, they know where is the direction, and without conspiracy, support each other. Kazakhstan, I think, is we are on the low start, and the capacity of our country is gigantic. I hope that all this capacity will be implemented. There is another aspect. Imanbek, our DJ, 22 years old and achieved success, but when we talked with him, he's so modest, so very modest. All his behavior shows his politeness and good upbringing. Or when we were organizing this forum, it's a difficult task to gather many speakers at one time, at one spot. Everyone has his own schedule. So I would like to thank everyone. At the beginning, we agreed, and this person indeed came, and this is also value. People whom we have invited, they are carriers of certain values. They would like all these values and shall be multiplied and be a good example for all our population, for our citizens. Thank you very much. When I received the invitation to moderate this panel session and having seen that there will be Nassim Taleb, I right away had a question. We all read the book about Black Swan. And Olzhas, my question is to you. Everything is a great forum and speakers and the audience is wonderful, but my question is provoking question. What is the point for us to think about the future if there is 1 second, third black swan tomorrow, so many black swans? Well, from a management and administration point of view, administering any country, any structure, you always need to have a plan, even if it's wrong. Presence of the wrong plan is better than the absence of any plan. And the second is you cannot live without hope. Human needs hope. The image of the future is the hope. We always want something good, something better. Therefore, regardless of the negative circumstances inside the country, outside the country, the image of the future is still needed. It's something we need. Thank you very much, Olzhas. Dear speakers, I would like at the very end, to address each one of you with a simple question, asking in 1 or 2 words, call the image of the future for Kazakhstan in 7 years. Colleagues, dear friends, now I would like to welcome separately Mr. James Robinson. James Robinson, welcome to you. You all are very aware James Robinson is the co-author of such a wonderful book, Why Some Countries Are Rich and Some Are Poor. This book impressed me much. I understood many processes for myself in the world, in the geopolitics, in the development of... I forced my son to read that book, and in fact, this book was very fundamental for me, because in the past, when I was thinking what will happen with the future of Kazakhstan, I was sure that we are wonderfully and coolly past the transit period. We will calmly overcome all impediments and the reforms, and we will calmly go into the future. After reading your book, I thought 50-50. Maybe it will be good, maybe it will be bad. Unfortunately, January events demonstrated that not everything is rosy, and there were problems. Mr. James Robinson, I didn't give you the first floor on purpose, because you often come to Kazakhstan, and but still to understand our thoughts, our images, and our way of thinking, I wanted you first to listen to other speakers. And now, after having a short briefing by our speakers, I would like to address you. And my question is, we all talk about the image of the future, and your book about the history more, and it gives certain formulas, frames, how you can avoid some fails as a state. Please tell us now, to what extent it's critical to have your image in your head, how important it is. And Is there a guarantee that having this image of the future, we will reach this image of the future, that it will come true? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very. Is it okay? I'm very honoured and happy to be here. And as you say, it's my third time in Astana. So I think it's very important to have a vision of the future, and I'm going to talk about that. But can I just make two observations on the discussion so far, which I find very exciting and very telling for the future in Kazakhstan? One is this emphasis on young people. You know, when you get to my age, you kid yourself, you're always reinventing yourself, and you're a new person. But I think what we know is that the creativity and energy and ideas are in young people. You know, Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg started their companies when they were about the same age as Imanbek, when they were students at Harvard University. Talent. So that I find very exciting, letting young people flourish and find themselves. In our book, the key concept is inclusive institutions. And the word inclusive is very significant, because the way countries flourish economically is through innovation, through entrepreneurship. We've been hearing a lot about that. Through people's ideas and projects and dreams and passions and visions for the future. I'm coming to the future. But you don't know where that is. You don't know where that talent is in society. You don't know who has it and who can come to the top. So the word inclusive is about building institutions in a society that allows you to tap into all that latent talent that you have. And I think that's something you get here, and that's very exciting. The other thing which I find very exciting about the discussion is Imanbek mentioned, yes, we want to create a society where foreigners come. He's in New York City. I always say, when people ask me, why has the United States been so successful for the last 200 years? It's because it sucks all the talent, like Imanbek, out of the rest of the world. He's in New York City. He's not in Shanghai, okay? He sucks all the talent out of the world, and I think there's something about Kazakhstan. You get that. You get this globalization. I've been here 3 times. I've never been to any other country in Central Asia. It's not a coincidence I've been here 3 times. You want to learn. You want to talk to people. You want to get ideas. And I think that's the secret of the United States. That's a great talent and asset for the country to have. So just listening to hear you just thinking through what's going on in Kazakhstan, I just wanted to point out some things which I find very exciting and important. I think in terms of having a vision for a future, of course you have to have a vision for a future. I mean, at the personal level, when you achieve something in life, you have to have a plan, you have to have a goal, you have to figure out how to get there. Education, build a firm, borrow capital, invest, socialize people into understanding where you're going. So I think at an individual level, it's obviously important to have a vision for where you're going and try to aspire to achieve something. But for society, it's even more important, because the society is made up of lots of different people, and you have to coordinate their plans and coordinate their expectations. You have to get them onto the same page. And you have to get people to make sacrifices too. It takes time to build. It takes time to invest. It takes time to build institutions. Think about trust. You mentioned trust. Trust isn't created like that. Trust is a process. Building trust is a process, and that takes time. So if people are impatient, to build, to invest, they need to know where they're going. They need to be inspired. They need to have a vision of what Kazakhstan could be that will inspire them to make sacrifices and cooperate with people and work together to build institutions, to build trust. So I think it's absolutely crucial. And you need to sequence things. I'm going to talk about this a little bit this afternoon, because you can't do everything at the same time. There's many successes, but there's also many challenges. So you can't address all the challenges at the same time. Every successful reform experience, whether it's in China, whether it's Europe, Britain in the 19th century, it always is about sequencing, okay? And sequencing takes time, and you have to know where you're going and how to structure that sequence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I was interested with what you said, that trust can be done with this, and you did this gesture. How the trust is formed between the government and the nation? Tell us, please, more about that.
Well, I think, trust is built by delivering, by the government delivering on commitments, by the government delivering on its promises and building coherently towards a vision of where it wants to go. And that's why people come to trust the government, that it can rely on the government, that the government doesn't behave arbitrarily, the government behaves according to the law and the rules. But also, the government has to trust the people also, and it trusts the people if the people cooperate, the people pay taxes, the people obey the law. So it's a two-way street. People have to trust the government and the government has to trust the people. And I think the only way that develops is through the process of just taking actions and showing that you can do the right thing, that the government can behave properly, that it can behave consistently, it can enforce the rules, it can build institutions. And then citizens will realize that the government is a trustworthy partner, and they will begin to trust the government. And so that's a two-way street, I think. It's both, it goes in both directions, and it just takes time to create that relationship. But I think that, I think you see in every successful country in the world, you have that trust. I mean, I was just in South Korea, for instance, and doing research and giving lectures. In South Korea, the government knows everything about you. The government knows your bank transactions, the government knows where you use your credit card. Why do Koreans allow the government to have that information? Because they trust the government won't misuse the information. So when COVID came, they could introduce an incredibly effective contact tracing institution because they knew where you're using your credit card. If they found you had COVID, they could see where you use your credit card in every shop. So they know where you've been. So they could go to the shop and say, okay, you have to go into quarantine. You have to go into quarantine. You've been put at risk. So the information they had on people was incredibly useful. But that's only possible in a society where people really trust the government, because you have to trust that the government will not misuse that information.
Thank you very much. I know you are from UK, and for example, London Stock Exchange slogan is "Dectum meum pactum," what means my word is my guarantee. So I think this is the key for trust. Я считаю, что самым главным элементом.
I think that the most important element between the government and the nation, between the government and businesses, is the guarantee of your word. If you said anything, you need to keep your word, and this is the key condition. If the government stated about no devaluation, and then there should be no devaluation, and then the people would trust such a government. I remember that time when the Minister of Finance, I think at that time, or the chairman of the National Bank promised that there would be no devaluation, and in the morning my wife informed me that devaluation happened exactly on that morning. I lost a lot of money, and I don't want the government to abuse us in this way. And this is also the condition for the trust. Any problems, any disasters in our communities would be a crisis for the government. Mistrust from the nation to the government. I'd like now to appeal to Mr. Timur Suleimenov, and I am asking you to answer my questions as the last one. As far as you are in the center of decision-making of the government, and a law lot depends on this team, and you had the opportunity to listen to the young creative generation, to billionaire, to our serious minister, to foreign experts and public figures. And tell us, please, in any way, did the image of Kazakhstani future adjusted after such kind of statements of our guests? Thank you very much for the invitation. The forum is very interesting and discussions are interesting. And the questions you ask are of large scale, and no doubt you wanted us in the end to use two words for description of this image. I think this is also quite a challenge, and only writers can do it in 2 or 3 words. And I made notes while I was listening to my colleagues, and I made all the records, but as it usually happens in the articles of newspapers, what were the key words that were like refrain from one speaker to another? And I just would read what I liked most of all and what is common in the speeches of our panelists that are repeated one by one. Although the panelists are from different areas, the words like digitalization, creativity, capacity, freedom, peacekeeper, Imanbek used this, neutrality, loud, adaptivity, experiments, implementation, passionarism, growth, values, inclusiveness, victimness. And Almas used this word in a different atmosphere, but to your question, who could be in the system of decision-making? And he said that this should be not for the personal brand, the decisions may be taken in technocratic way, maybe the decision would sound as a stupid one, but for the long-term perspective, it could be right for stability. And I just named it as being a victim to give the directions, and directions could not be always popular. And I think for most of Kazakhstani residents, thank you very much, when you said that I am one of the people who helped to formulate to the government, formulate some suggestions for the head of the state. And here we try to hear all what the people express. What else I found interesting? The most important out of what we heard, and you cannot many times repeated the word trust, and I draw a picture. I will not show it to you as far as I'm a very bad artist, but I think that the trust is the foundation. Without such a multi-sided notion, trust of one person to another, and this is trust of the old generation to the younger one, and vice versa. And Imanbek in his speech said, do not impede us, do not give us morals. And there is a very nice song about a son and a daughter, that we don't want to be a moralist to you, but still there should be a culture between the people, and the trust should also be in place. And older generation impeding the young generation to move should not repeat these mistakes. And maybe what is even more important for the scope of the state, trust in the system, in the businesses that also should feel trust in the government. And during a long period of time, we need to be objective. We saw degrading trust that became lower and lower, and the degree of some certain negativism is quite strong still in the community. What is stated by the government is perceived by the people very carefully, and we should become a partner, at least. Maybe we misformulated something as the government and built something different in the heads of the society, and probably the changes should start from the government operators. From the content point of view, there should be some updating. For that, we have the presidential human resources reserve, and certainly such changes cannot happen in a quick way, and civil servants are usually middle age of civil servants are 30 years and older. And Olzhas was saying that we should not be afraid of responsibility taken on us. We should not hide ourselves behind the backs of our colleagues. Nobody will be able to change our country, only us. And I say on behalf of the governmental apparatus, and may say that this understanding comes to us, and the president demands from each of us, do not wait until somebody else do important things for us and take important decisions and make painful changes for us, for our families, and for the nation. That's why we also need to be active, and we need to learn the lessons. Coming back to the trust, I would say, no doubt it is a foundation, and all these things, fintech as well as digitalization, implementation of the creative economy, these all are blocks we may use to build a house of our country. And there will be a room of fintech, a room for tourism development. This is the building we need to live in, to rest and to have our meals and etc. This building should be comfortable. And what is also important, and everyone was saying about that, and I'd like to word it again, what would be the glue for all these blocks? There is a foundation, there are blocks that will be used for the building, but what will be the solution? What will be the glue? What will be the cement? I think that our cultural code may become that glue. Kazakhs that are the nation that always was a peacemaker. We should not deviate from our track and stay honest in terms of our partners, and be honest to ourselves, be able to perceive other cultures, be able to include it into our own culture. And multiculturalism would be that glue for gluing our Kazakhstani society and be used for the building of Kazakhstani statehood and of this future image. As for the roof of that building, first of all, we need to define how many floors will be in that building. I think this will be a big building with multi-stories in order to find the premises according to our tastes. And this may be a skyscraper. Anything else would be just the sky. Maybe I talked about different things and repeated refrains of our previous speakers, and being a civil servant as well as a resident, I may say that the government understands the nation and understands what are our future intentions, and the forum like ours we are present in may be one of the tools to show that we understand, and the government hears, and not hears but also tries to act. And if we do it in joint efforts, we will be able to do more. Thank you. Thank you. And I'd like to request from the technical service to place in the screens QR, and colleagues, you will be able to answer my questions. I'd like to ask the question, what I like in the current administration of the president would be that they are very modest, and you were modest. Maybe you just answered in a chaotic way in some way, but still, you were the first who answered a very clear answer on the image of future Kazakhstan. And you said, this is a house, this is a building for all of us. And for us, this is the sustainability, safety and security, our well-being, and this house will be strong, will be very sustainable, and in 7 years it will have serious foundation, a lot of windows into the world, and many premises where we can find the comfortable space for us. And you said everything also depends on the number of floors, and maybe this is a philosophic but still a key moment. A brief question: this is just a mansion or multi-storied building? How do you see this house? I think this will be a unique architectural building where there could be combination of both. Yeah, we have a lot of unique buildings like Expo, and certainly this will not be a mansion. And for mansion, this will be an individual house for one person only, but it also will not be a dormitory. Some of us lived in dormitories, and this probably is nice, but still there should not be equality. This will be, no doubt, unified halls and unified public spaces, and certainly you will be able to find somebody will have smaller room, somebody bigger room. Everything depends on the creativity, on your strong intentions to afford more. As for the floors, I remember that before, when skyscrapers were built in the US, the richest people resided themselves in penthouses. Now mentality changes, they come to the ground floors now. And I was in the US and was acquainted to Michael Bloomberg, and I liked very much that he is in the open space and the same floor with his colleagues on the ground floor, but you cannot find the way to him. It is not the easy way, and the secret of security also remains. And my question is, and tell us please, we all enthusiastically perceived your message that we will be able to build a house, and what impediments we'll still have for that construction. Do we have the architects? Do we have the constructors and painters and etc.? What are the impediments for building such a house for all the nation? Tell us, please. It's clear that when you build a house and make a foundation, there should be a topographical survey be done. What is the seismography in the area where you choose for building the house? And probably we are in a wonderful country. And nevertheless, the neighborhood is a complex one. We have two huge superpowers with their political and other opinions, and we have other neighboring respectful countries, but unfortunately we don't have an access to the sea, to any point of the world. And that's why the first impediment is the geographical position of our country, our landlocked position and seismographic situation as well. And some volcanoes start to revive, and that's why it's hard. And foundation should be the trust, and solution in the community of Kazakhstan should become stronger.
And the seismic situation is complicated. We will be shaken, but we need to be stronger. We need to be welded well to each other. And from internal things, I think painters, carpenters, designers will be doing that. We need plan. It's unclear which will be the house. However, there needs to be the terms of reference already to see the vision Kazakhstan 2030-2029. We need to see what is necessary from human resources point of view, financial resources, proper regulatory framework, and other things that create our image of the future and commonality. But I'm sure we can do that. We can manage. With internal factors, we will manage. Internal factors, we will definitely cope with. That's important. And I believe you. I believe you. You make me. Almas asked me a minute. He has some small remarks to make. Yes, it was interesting to listen to all points. Mr. James told us about that United States, they suck talents, and there are a lot of countries. Timur Suleimenov mentioned South Korea and creativity, that there will be a separate room of the creativity. I'm sure this will be interesting room and everyone will be popping in. This is about capacity. Timur said about the prospects, about capacity. How do we see as a creative industry in our industry? We have such term that we joined it warm Kazakhstan, warm like a worm. South Korean 20 songs from Met Gala, 14 were from South Korea. 35% of Netflix is from South Korea. The only office they invested is in South Korea, and they make only Korean content, only Korean performers. What do we warm Kazakhs? What is a warm Kazakhs? We see it warm. W is Western oriented. Mr. Robbins said Imanbek is in States. I'm going to States to HBO meeting, trying to sell content. We understand that Rihanna divorced. She is now pregnant, and the stock exchange A is Asians. It's what Koreans have. They're just Asians, Western-oriented Asians. South Korea, we went to Yola House, high-neck TikTok houses, South Korea, and Hamyak is in the top 5 bloggers in Korea and Japan. They don't know about Kazakhstan, but they see our appearance, and it's well perceived in Indonesia, in Philippines. Are Russian-speaking. We all speak Russians, and we can contact with Russia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, and M is Muslims that we are Muslim countries. Two different things. We go to Dubai, Saudi Arabia. We make projects with Dubai and Saudis, and the Ministry of Hajj was recently came. What I'm trying to say, Koreans gave these results just being Asians, and we have the full spectrum spectrum of warm, and we can do well not only in creativity, in business, entrepreneurship, in anything else. I would like to emphasize what Timur Suleimenov said, that we are the best country. Yes, without irony and sarcasm, I think it is so. I see no other country which could be so unique, so universal in creativity as well, because we feel pain of Muslims, Asians, Western people, CIS. We make videos about war and about the rest. It will be selfish to talk about creativity, but think what we are able to in digital, in Kaspi, in freedom, in business, because we are warm. We are warm. Thank you. That was a very open answer to name future of Kazakhstan in 1-2 words, but I would like to avoid the best country, the best. We know when the country thought it's the best and what happened afterwards with this best country. Therefore, dear colleagues, thank you. We don't touch this subject at all. Now, with 1 or 2 words, the future of the Kazakhstan, future image of Kazakhstan, in 1 or 2 words. In 2 words, I see. Asian Switzerland, Asian Switzerland, wonderful. James Robinson, in 1 or 2 words.
I like worm. Worm. You said it had to be. You said it had to be 1 word yesterday. Yeah. You needed 1 word.
Yes, yesterday we were discussing strategy, and I shared my opinion that any strategy, what it is, it needs to be in 1 word, clear to many. 100 states, 300 clauses is difficult to perceive and usually is not implemented. Mr. Bagdat? Well, I took the word of our well-known speaker, Mr. Robinson, inclusivity through digitalization. Inclusivity through digitalization. In 2 words, I explain what I mean. In the book, Why Nations Fail, it is pierced with the inclusivity and the extra activity. Inclusivity is not minority groups, that all minority groups to be included. Many understand inclusivity only like it's about disability and only about certain minority group. Inclusivity as a whole, it's overcoming corruption, bureaucracy, win over, make it all transparent and make it available to all in the same equal way. Inclusivity through digitalization. Mr. Timur Turlov?
Digital nomads.
Digital nomads. Digital nomads. Wonderful. Mr. Timur Suleimenov, you reaffirm your position of house. Kazakhstan is our joint house. We all together. You remember during pandemic we had a slogan, motto, we are together. Ideologies made it, but it showed itself well, and not from helping from state, but we felt we are together. We are together. Kazakhstan is our joint house and we are together. Anything to add? I would express my opinion just in 1 minute. For me, the image of Kazakhstan is educated people. I worked in a Japanese company, and one Japanese gentleman told me, look at GDP in per capita in Kazakhstan. It was 1,800 USD, and in GDP it was 35,000 USD, and their population was 10 times higher, and it touched me so deep, and I realized our power and strength is our heads. We cannot win anyone on the battlefield, but if we are educated, we can. Thank you, thank you. We thank our speakers, we thank audience for the involvement.